Many secret agents were being killed due to a breach in the MI6 data. So, this sent her on that particular day to hunt down the Mafia. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. Back in 1989 Berlin, an MI6 agent named James Gascoigne is sprinting through the city, terrified for his life. His secret identity's been blown, and people are after him. He thinks he's managed to escape, but out of nowhere, a car slams into him and knocks him down. The guy chasing him turns out to be a KGB agent named Yuri. He sneers at James, saying maybe he's not as sharp as he thought. James, bleeding and desperate, suspects someone named Satchel betrayed him. Yuri doesn't waste time. He shoots James dead, swipes his watch, and tosses the body off a bridge like trash. Fast forward a few days, and we meet Lorraine Broughton, a tough-as-nails MI6 agent who's just wrapped up a brutal mission. She's bruised, banged up, and washing down her pain with booze and pills. She stares at a photo of someone she once loved, then burns it, determined to leave it all behind. The next morning, she gets all dressed up and heads to MI6 headquarters. She's got a debriefing scheduled with her superior, Eric Gray. She asks if the head of MI6, known as C, is present, but Gray dodges the question, though Lorraine knows he's probably behind the one-way mirror watching. Also in the room is a CIA agent named Kurzfeld. Lorraine wants him kicked out of the meeting, but Gray says no. He demands answers about what went down in Berlin. Lorraine takes a drag of her cigarette and starts telling the story from the beginning. A few days earlier, she'd been called into a meeting with Gray and C, where they told her about James' death. They believe he was taken out by the KGB. His job had been to meet a contact known as Spyglass, an East German informant who had a watch hiding a list of all intelligence agents working in Berlin. That watch is now in the hands of Yuri, the same guy who killed James, and he's got a deadly reputation. Every spy agency is after him now. Lorraine's assignment? Fly to Berlin, meet with the local MI6 chief, David Percival, and retrieve the list. She's given a fake identity, Elizabeth Lloyd, a lawyer supposedly sent by James' family to claim his body. But her real mission is to get the list, expose the mole named Satchel, and trust absolutely no one. Meanwhile, in East Berlin, David meets Spyglass at an underground club and demands the list. But Spyglass already handed it to James and only wants asylum for his family now. David doesn't buy it. He hasn't heard from James and refuses to help unless he sees the list. Suddenly, the club gets raided by cops, and the two men bolt. Spyglass says he's memorized everything on the list. They're ambushed again, and David has to brawl his way out. He ends up stealing a uniform and causing a distraction to slip back into West Berlin. Lorraine arrives in West Berlin soon after and gets picked up by a guy claiming to work for David. She's suspicious but gets in the car. There's another quiet man already in the back seat, and she quickly notices they're being followed. The driver casually mentions they're KGB, sent by a guy named Bremovich. Lorraine wastes no time. She attacks, kicks the man next to her out of the moving car, and causes the vehicle to crash. The car tailing them? That's actually David, who shows up late and says sorry for the mix-up. He's not convinced Lorraine will stick around, thinking she'll leave right after collecting James' body, but she plans on handling things her own way. David then dumps one of the dead KGB bodies at his office, sending a bold message to Bremovich. Meanwhile, Bremovich is dealing with a bunch of kids arrested the night before. He picks one at random, tells him to dance, then smashes him with a skateboard, just for fun. He hasn't heard from Yuri and suspects he might try selling the list. He orders his men to hunt Yuri down and demands the young kids tell him where David is. Elsewhere, a French undercover agent named Delphine is tailing Lorraine. Lorraine tries to collect James' body, but runs into issues at the morgue due to some paperwork mess. Later, back in her apartment, she realizes someone's broken in. She attacks the intruder. It's David, who weirdly compliments her for sticking around in Berlin. She questions him about Spyglass and the woman following her, but he plays dumb on both. That night, Lorraine visits a watchmaker who makes gadgets for spies. She wants info, but he says to come back tomorrow. The next day, she sneaks into James' old place to search for clues. Turns out, the list also reveals the identity of Satchel, the mole in MI6. While digging through the apartment, she finds a photo of David and James together, proving David lied about never meeting him. As she processes this, she hears a car pull up. It's the police. She instantly knows David sold her out, but doesn't understand why. Cops storm the place, but Lorraine's ready. She takes out a few of them, then jumps off the balcony using a spool of wire like a pro. On the street, she knocks out 2 more officers trying to arrest her. Later, she plants a listening device on herself before confronting David in his apartment. They talk about Yuri and Spyglass, and she brings up the photo, but he insists he mention knowing James. As they walk, she warns him that she's onto his games and doesn't trust him. Next, Lorraine checks out a restaurant listed on a card the fake KGB guys gave her. There, she runs into Bremovich, who questions her motives in Berlin. Suddenly, Delphine shows up, pretending to be Lorraine's date, and chases Bremovich away. She introduces herself as a translator and invites Lorraine to a club. Lorraine isn't buying it, but takes the address anyway. David, of course, is secretly watching everything. Later, Lorraine returns to the watchmaker, who gives her a watch with a hidden message. David hears the conversation too. Back at her apartment, Lorraine decodes the message, which tells her to meet someone in East Berlin. She crosses the border, but the guards warn her to be back by 6 p.m. or she'll be arrested. Meanwhile, Bremovich's men spot her and move in. Lorraine picks up the pace and ducks into a movie theater. The men follow and split up the search. She sneaks around, sets off an alarm, and steals a set of car keys, ready for her next move. Lorraine ends up running straight into one of the guys chasing her and knocks him flat. But Bremovich's top thug gives her a serious fight. She stabs him right in the face with her car keys. He says Bremovich just wants to have a little chat. Then he kicks her hard enough to send her crashing through a movie screen. She vanishes behind it and slips out through the back. She eventually links up with a contact sent by the watchmaker, a guy named Merkel, on a rooftop. He doesn't know where Yuri is either, but he's more worried about finding this mystery traitor they call Satchel. Merkel offers to let her use his limited network to help dig up some intel. Elsewhere, David spots Yuri walking into the watchmaker's shop. Inside, Yuri talks in code, hinting that he's trying to sell a watch and that word should get out to all interested buyers. Then he dips. Lorraine later catches up with Delphine at a nightclub. The two get flirty and end up kissing, eventually locking themselves in the bathroom. That's when Lorraine yanks a hidden gun off Delphine and demands answers. Delphine admits she knows exactly who Lorraine is and what she's doing. She was assigned to track the list too. It's her first mission, and now she's in way over her head. Scared but honest. They spend the night together. Back during her debriefing, Lorraine tells Gray and Kurzfeld that she only got close to Delphine to fish for info. When asked if Delphine had anything useful, she says no, even though Delphine had spilled some truth about David. Lorraine just leaves that part out. Meanwhile, Yuri confronts David in a dark alley, but David kills him with a screwdriver and takes the watch. After not hearing anything from Lorraine for a while, Kurzfeld shows up to remind her that the clock's ticking. He also warns her to stay away from Delphine, or things could get ugly. David checks out the list and finally finds out who Satchel really is. It hits him hard. He pours himself a drink. Later, he tells Lorraine to meet him at a club, says Yuri's gone and the list is missing. The only option left is to protect Spyglass since he's got the whole list memorized. What Lorraine doesn't know is that David already has the list himself. In the present-day interrogation, Gray says David had already told MI6 he had the list and the name of the mole. Lorraine is surprised she was never clued in. Meanwhile, David secretly meets with Bremovich and offers to give up Satchel's identity to keep things balanced. He even tips him off about Spyglass. Lorraine tells Delphine she's convinced David is setting her up, but Delphine doesn't seem shocked. She says in their line of work, relationships are tools, nothing more. Lorraine and David then get forged papers and head into East Berlin. There, they meet up with Spyglass, whose wife and kid also show up. Turns out, David changed the plan a bit. He's disguised as a cop to escort the family, while Lorraine walks Spyglass through a crowd of protesters. In a nearby building, Bremovich's men are prepping for a sniper hit. Merkel gives a signal, and suddenly a bunch of protesters open umbrellas, part of her last-minute change to the plan. Lorraine and Spyglass keep moving, but suddenly he gets shot. Lorraine doesn't see it, but it was David who fired. She quickly spots the sniper nest, grabs the wounded Spyglass, and rushes him into the building where the KGB are hiding. She leaves him in the lobby and heads up the elevator, ready for a fight. She ends up in a brutal, messy, close-range battle with 2 KGB agents, but manages to kill them both. After grabbing the rifle stock, she surprises 2 more men and takes them out too. More agents show up, but she tricks them into a room. As one guy steps inside, she shoots him in the head, then ends up fighting the same man she stabbed earlier. He slams her around, but she manages to knock him out with a mini stove. Barely hanging on, she grabs a corkscrew. They both struggle to stand. He gets her in a chokehold until she jams the corkscrew into his eye. Lorraine and the injured Spyglass crawl out to the street, hijack a cop car, and try to flee. But the same thug comes after her again. This time she shoots him and runs him over. A car follows and opens fire, but she shoots the driver and crashes the pursuers. They pull over by a river to catch their breath, but another car slams into them, sending their vehicle into the water. Spyglass is trapped, and even though she tries to save him, he drowns right in front of her. She escapes alone. Dazed and soaking, she wanders along the road until Merkel finds her and helps her out. Lorraine realizes she's been tracked and is determined to figure out how. Back in West Berlin, she rips apart her place looking for a bug. She remembers handing David her encrypted code and find a French tracking device, possibly planted to frame Delphine. Delphine shows up, and Lorraine urges her to leave the city before David can pin everything on her. Delphine later calls David, threatening to expose him for setting her up. Lorraine breaks into his place, but he's gone. She finds a tape of her private chat with Delphine, proof he's been spying. At that moment, David breaks into Delphine's place and attacks her. She fights back and stabs him repeatedly. Lorraine gets there moments later, buzzing the door, but by the time she makes it up, Delphine is dead. She finds photos of David meeting Brimovich and realizes he has the list. David tries to run. He sets his place on fire and heads for his car. But there's a knife in his tire, and Lorraine's waiting for him. She shoots him. As he bleeds out, he tells her he read the list and knows her secret. Lorraine grabs his watch, then shoots him again. At the MI6 debriefing, Gray asks why she killed David. Lorraine plays doctored recordings that make it seem like David was Satchel. She denies knowing anything about the list. They shut the case. 3 days later, Lorraine shows up in Paris, speaking Russian. She meets Brimovich, who calls her comrade Satchel. But before he can act on what David told him, Lorraine kills his guards. She then switches to an American accent and tells Brimovich she was feeding him lies the whole time. She was working against the KGB. Then she shoots him too. In the end, she and Kurzfeld fly back to the US with the list, hinting that Lorraine had been with the CIA all along, pulling strings on every side. If you like this video, hit that like button, and if not, maybe press dislike twice just to be sure. But really, you should watch the whole movie. Thanks a lot for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.